So I will just say this clearly. How is it possible to shift from walking in a forest surrounded by trees in a rural land to shift into feeling that you are surrounded by these fierce, noble beasts of intelligence that are boiling with the sap of love in a most concrete way, like trying to make it concrete. Imagine that this is a trans-historical gathering of the most noble, brilliant, genius minds that shaped history. Within your flesh, how would that feel? What would that create in you, and what would you think? What would you do? How would you stand? How would you walk? How would you talk? How would you behave? And ask yourself, why is it hard to stabilize, even as a fictional exercise? Like, maybe I'm a fiction writer, so I just want to stabilize the substance of a story. Why is it such a difficult work to be able to stabilize a very alien atmosphere of being, just because the environment is generally defined in a certain way? For example, we can reach a sort of insight, and we can even concretize it, we can even stabilize it as a conviction within ourselves. But we don't always live in its realization. So this is the very point that I'm trying to make. My fucking question is how to stabilize ground, how to stabilize fields. Understand exactly what it is. So let's speak very plainly. I have some experience with texts. I have a developed, advanced, fierce love for certain voices that I have found in certain scriptures, which are very precise forms of being. Very precise forms of being. Models of posture. I have 2 daughters. What else could I desire in this life then? To be able to have them meet these brilliant, noble postures. What else could I possibly desire? That if I discovered these forms of posture, these forms of clarity, of dignity, of standing within the flux of existence, what else could I possibly want than to walk with my girls and these enlightened, noble beings together in this field? And then I will ask another question. Do you sometimes feel that if you can stabilize a very clear vision of the future, then the decisions become extremely precise and effective, walking together and establishing the dances of our postures, walking together in this field as fully developed creators, fully aware of our nature. What else could I desire? So this is one sequence of contemplation. I can establish it with a certain motion. I take a vision of the future and I shift it so as to make possible this encounter. I take them from the future and I try to make it possible. I try to envision it as a possibility. I return to my present and establish within my body the necessary shifts in my situation that could make that possible. What can be associated with this? And I stay connected with the immense joy of this vision, and I delve in its power. And I make it real in my body as if these beings are walking together, and I look at the trees. I see their morphologies, I see their moves in the wind, I see their complete pages of opened wisdom, complete pages of illuminated manuscripts laying bare in the sun, fearless, libraries fearless. I will ask a parallel question. Did it ever happen to you when you are able to stabilize a clear, precise vision, when you have the necessary concentration to do that? Does it happen that decisions become clear and immediately effective, and you realize that you could do such effective things immediately just because you are no longer traveling through the labyrinths of various preconceptions and programs and projections? So I'm asking you, if this is the case, why isn't this a cultural problem to be solved? Why isn't this a culturally established form of training? And to simply observe it as a very relevant state of things. So then I establish another sort of motions, which is this struggle to have two persons really communicate and really meet. And I try to explore through motion, through the languages of muscles and sensations, the qualities of this phenomena that I wish to contemplate, which is directly related to this vision I want to establish in the future. So I contemplate the ways in which subtle communication is so difficult to attain. Thus, love becomes so distorted. So many doors close between us because of distortions of language. So then I understand the nature of the war. So then I understand what is the true nature of this war. So I understand what is the true nature of this war. So then I anchor with the rhythms of this music and with the rhythms of this field, the rhythms of the plants that feel like soldiers, because I know, I feel it in my flesh. I know it in my flesh, the nature of this war. I know it. I know the trauma and the pain that is caused by opening up your heart and then being distorted and deceived and discouraged. So I know that these enlightened beings that I call to join me, walking these fields, can address the precise nature of suffering. So everything in me contributes when I understand this path of union. All the voices in me contribute to this work. When I can feel the truth of this work, everything participates. I will say, for example, that this vision of the enlightened beings that I could discern in our culture, the forms of spirit architecture that I fell in love with and I constantly searched for, be they artists or writers or philosophers or whomever they can be, I know the love I carry for the substance of their presence, and I know how I long for them. I know how difficult it is to really have a grip on these substances of these forms of presence. And I know that one can touch them, one can feel them, one can know them, and then losing them for maybe years, for decades, and then after such long periods of time, realizing that they were at the mental level, like for example, if I say Wittgenstein or Buddha or Kiefer or Joseph Beuys or Vimalakirti or whomever I fell in love with, I certainly have memories and I can speak about them, and I can speak about my experiences. I have clear memories of that, and somehow I feel like I can access them. But why is it that their substance of presence is not established within me, and why is it that I cannot establish these substances to be continuously present? Why? It's certainly not a sort of ontological impossibility. It's not about that, I don't know, they are dead or they don't want to, or maybe they are spirits in some other realm and I need to convince them to be with me. This is just bullshit. It's only a matter of understanding the nature, the subtle nature of these forms of presence, and then if the work is clear and the discipline to stabilize them is clear, then yeah, the work Even if it's difficult, it's clear, the path is clear. This also applies to all the persons we love, and this certainly applies to this pain of loss. That when somebody dies, we feel this pain that we have lost them and we cannot contact them, just because we have associated our identity and our meeting and the possibility of our meeting. We have associated it with certain configurations of being. Meeting in flesh, meeting in language, whatever. So if someone can discern precisely, phenomenologically, the qualities, the exact qualities of a presence, of a person, of a spirit, of a soul, then there is never any question of distance. There is never any question of will, in the sense that, oh, I would like to connect with that spirit, but maybe that spirit doesn't want to or doesn't love me. At the level of mature love, there is no possible closing, there is no possible refusal.